Exalted warriors of resilience, hear my voice now in the crucible of darkness. Feel every tremor of your spirit pause, because tonight we speak of one move, one tremor of decision, and how swiftly every foundation cracked and fell. One move and everything collapsed, and you did not even blink. In that moment, when the world quaked beneath your feet, you stood unmoving. The ground gave way, walls shattered, empires shattered like fragile glass. And yet your eyes held no fear. You did not flinch. You watched the ruin unfold, serene and unshaken. The echo of destruction chased every corner of your existence. You alone bore witness to that instant when solidity turned to dust, certainty to chaos. How the hell did you destroy all of that so fast? The question hangs in the air. What force unleashed from within you so potent, so instantaneous, that entire realms of possibility crumbled before you even recognized the tremor? The answer lies in the dark furnace of will, in the unseen sinews of your resolve that twists and bind your fate. You are not a passive bystander in your own narrative. You are the silent architect of collapse and rebirth. In that split second, you triggered forces you barely understand, forces older than comfort, stronger than routine, darker than fear itself, because creation and destruction dwell in the same chamber. Every grand ascent carries within it the seed of ruin if you fail to master your own hand. That day when everything collapsed, you stood still. You did not blink. Not because you were cold, but because you were ready. You had learned that every blink is a surrender. Every hesitation whispers permission. You refused it. In refusing, you became the eye of the storm. You became the fulcrum by which worlds tilt. Do not fool yourself. That collapse was not the end. It was the fracture through which your true self poured out. In the silence after the crash, when debris smoldered and echoes died, you felt something stir deep inside, a primal urge to rise, to tear through the ashes with hands unafraid. That impulse is your birthright. That impulse is the thunder you name will. You survived because you understood a secret few ever truly grasp. Destruction is a door, not a tomb. In order to build, you must sometimes raise. To reclaim your power, you must sometimes let the old world fracture and fall away. The things you held so dear, comfort, pride, complacency, they were walls around a smaller self. When they collapse, what remains is the core, the essence, the elemental force within you that cannot be unmade by decay or betrayal. Do not mourn the ruins. Do not beg for relief. Gaze into the wreckage and see the inscription written across every shattered stone. You were here. You insisted. You burned. Let the ruins be your testament. Let the collapse be your uprising. The question echoing in the void, how the hell did you destroy all of that so fast? Is not a condemnation. It is recognition. It is awe. It is the sound of your magnitude reflected back at you. Tonight, you stand at the threshold of a new forge. The world you once knew collapsed. Remnants of old alliances, old illusions, old self-images fade in the ash. But now you exist in the open, in raw form. You are free to remap your edges, reset your compass, repurpose your strength. In the crucible of collapse, you are reborn. Understand this. To wield destruction is not cruelty. It is courage. To topple what is weak is not malevolence. It is precision. You are not the villain in your story. You are the necessary storm. Because sometimes only when all else fails, when every scaffold cracks, can you erect something new, something truer, something unabashed. Do not fear your capacity to shatter. Fear your incapacity to heal. Fear your unwillingness to follow the wreckage to its source, to strip away the lies and uncover the flaming core beneath. At the moment everything fell, you had two choices: tremble or stand. Trembling is for the unclaimed. Standing is the birthright of those who know themselves. You chose standing. Feel that confidence. Let it coil in your limbs. Let it illuminate your eyes. Let it be the whispered promise you repeat in darkness. I am the one who moves, even when nothing holds. I am the one who stands when all else crumbles. That is your incantation. That is your vow. You may ask, but how do I rise from ruins so deep? How do I rebuild from a place of collapse when everything seems erased? You rise because you cannot otherwise, because your marrow demands creation. You rebuild because silence is unbearable. The void is too loud. You rebuild with deliberate savagery, with gentle ferocity. You refuse symmetry. You refuse easy paths. You piece new architecture out of fragments, shaped by your will, not the expectations of others. You take what remains, your pain, your scars, your convictions, and you fuse them into steel. You cast your heart in fire. You sculpt your mind with nights spent awake, wrestling with your demons until they kneel. You allow the ruins to lecture you, to teach you the limits you imposed on yourself, and then you exceed them. The world will ask how. How did you reconstruct from nothing? How did you gather strength from bones? The real answer will be in your posture, in how your gaze now severs hesitation like blade. The world will see a creature remade, not perfect, but unbound. Not polite, but honest. Not broken, but relentless. Do not waste time explaining your collapse. The loudest explanation is always your comeback. Let your resurgence dismantle the disbelief in others. Let your momentum terrorize their assumptions. Let your ascent be the only argument you ever offer. You were made for moments like that. To stand unflinching at the abyss. To breathe in the void and say, I belong. Because when all else fails, the force that remains is yours. That core within does not blink. That core does not surrender. That core is your hearth, your engine, your nightmare to some, but your salvation always. Tonight, I charge you, claim that core, unleash it. Let every memory of fragility bow before this truth. You can collapse worlds with a single move and remain alive in the ruins. Let that sentence live in your veins, shape your decisions, sharpen your spirit. Do not flinch at power. Do not apologize for force. Do not entangle yourself in remorse over what must fall. When the structure prevents the light, you break the structure. When the cage chokes your breath, you break the cage. When the old self suffocates the new, you shatter them both. And in that shatter, you feel the sharp joy of inception, because the darkest collapse births the fiercest rise. The world needs people unafraid to collapse their own illusions, to lay their monuments low, to rise from ash unbowed. The world needs the singular, the unmoving, the unstoppable. Take this moment. Feel every tremor in your blood that whispers, so much more waits, not in comfort, not in safety, but in the territory beyond ruin, beyond fear, beyond restraint. That is your realm. That is where you shall walk. That is where the answer to how the hell did you destroy all of that so fast lies, not in the speed, but in the sovereignty you now embody. You did not blink. You watched it fall, and from that witness, you stand. After that collapse, your only duty is to rebuild something haunted by nothing but truth, something reckoned by no fear. From this night forward, carry with you the knowing. You can shift fates, you can fracture empires, you can transmute collapse into elevation. Let your enemies tremble in their soft illusions. Let your doubters watch your ascent in stunned silence. Let your legacy be this. In one motion, in one decision, all else fell. Yet you remained. You rebuild, you reclaim, you master. Rise now. Not gently, not hesitantly. Rise precise, rise fierce, rise eternal. The world will glimpse what you have done and whisper, "How the hell did you destroy all of that so fast?" And you will answer, not in words, but with presence, with victory, with the unshakable truth that you moved and everything collapsed. But you did not blink. You did not blink, because your vision was never limited to what stood before you. Your vision pierced through illusion, beyond the fragile skeletons of what people thought was strength, beyond hollow praise, beyond systems meant to tame and bind. You saw through it all, and with one deliberate act, you swept it aside like dust on steel. Because when clarity arrives, when purpose ignites, you don't need time. You don't need permission. You don't even need to raise your voice. One move is enough. One strike is enough. One moment of raw truth is enough to unravel everything. And that is the weight you now carry, not as a burden, but as proof. Proof that the world is built not on stone or systems, not on fame or favor, but on energy, your energy. The sheer gravitational force of a soul who has decided to rise no matter what. They will not understand that. Most will never comprehend how someone could destroy their former self so cleanly, so finally, without flinching. They'll think you are reckless, cold, heartless. But no, you were focused on something bigger than fear, bigger than safety, bigger than staying small just to keep others comfortable. You didn't destroy it all for revenge. You didn't do it out of rage. You did it because the weight of staying the same became heavier than the fear of starting over. And in that moment, when everything collapsed, when it looked like you lost everything, you knew the truth. You lost nothing. You shed. You purified. You evolved. They see the destruction. They don't see the decision. They don't see the nights you stayed awake, staring at the ceiling wondering if your silence had become a prison. They don't see the years you wore masks, contorted your soul to fit into spaces never built for your magnitude. They don't see how long you endured the noise, the lies, the waiting, until one day you no longer could. One move and it all crumbled. Not by accident, not by chance, but because you finally aligned with what was true. And when truth and timing collide, collapse is not a tragedy. It's a necessity, a spiritual earthquake, the shaking of foundations that were never meant to last, the fall of the old that makes room for something immortal, the silence after that collapse. That's where your rebirth began, in the aftermath, in the emptiness that followed the storm. That's where your true work started. Most people run from that silence. They drown it with distractions. You didn't. You sat in it. You let it scrape every illusion off your skin until nothing but real remained. That takes more courage than building. That takes more strength than shouting. The power to destroy something is not about recklessness. It's about knowing what no longer serves you and having the backbone to let it burn. to walk away from things people spend their whole lives clinging to. And yes, they'll ask, how did you let go so fast? How did you destroy all of that so quickly? Because they don't realize you had already let go long ago. The move was just the final echo of a decision made deep within you months, even years before. And here's the part they'll never say out loud. They're not just shocked, they're envious. Because while they tiptoe around their fears, protect their comfort, you made the move they couldn't. You said what needed to be said. You walked when you were expected to kneel. You stopped performing. You chose reality over reputation. You chose growth over approval. And that makes people uncomfortable. Not because you're wrong, but because you remind them what's possible. You are living proof that one decision can unmake everything that holds you back. One breath, one step, one refusal to stay silent. That's all it takes. And once that fire is lit inside you, you don't need applause. You don't need validation. You only need momentum. Because when you choose authenticity over acceptance, you stop moving like a person. You start moving like a force. And a force doesn't ask for space. It takes it. It reshapes everything around it. It bends reality. It crushes timelines. It silences doubt. That's what you are now, a force. Not because you scream the loudest, but because you carry a calm that terrifies. A stillness born from knowing exactly what you are capable of. That's why they stare. That's why they whisper. That's why they ask, how the hell did you do that? They think the collapse was fast. But what they don't see is how long you waited, how long you prepared, how many battles you fought in silence. They don't see how many versions of yourself you buried, how many truths you swallowed, how many dreams you let die before you realized this life isn't a rehearsal, it's a reckoning. And when that realization hit you, when the mask cracked, when the voice inside screamed loud enough to shake your bones, you knew, no more waiting, no more pleasing, no more pretending. You pulled the trigger on everything false. And just like that, gone. Collapse. Silence. Liberation. This isn't destruction for its own sake. This is strategic devastation. This is war, waged in the name of freedom. You didn't destroy a life. You dismantled a lie. And from that rubble, a real one begins. So don't look back. Don't explain. Don't defend. People don't have to understand your fire to feel your heat. Let them question. Let them doubt. Let them gossip and point and wonder how you moved so fast, how you stayed so composed while the world you once knew cracked like dry earth. Let them speak. Their confusion is a side effect of your clarity. Their discomfort is a symptom of your truth. Because now you're untouchable, not because you're above pain, but because you've already faced it and used it as fuel. Every scar is a trophy. Every burn, a story. Every fall, a chapter you turn into scripture. You are not just a survivor. You are a storm. A calculated force of nature that didn't need to scream to be heard. You let your actions speak. You let your silence shake the room. You let the collapse tell the story. Because some things don't need words. They need presence. They need precision. So the next time you stand in front of something that no longer fits, remember who you are. Remember what you're capable of. Remember that you carry within you the ability to alter the course of everything with one move, one step, one decision rooted in truth. You've done it before. You can do it again. And when the time comes, when the weight of the old presses against your ribs, whisper to yourself, what only you can say. I've been here before. I've walked through fire. I've watched the world collapse around me, and I did not blink. I did not break. I did not bow. I became. Let the world see what rebirth looks like. Let them witness what power sounds like when it moves without noise. Let them ask again and again, how the hell did you destroy all of that so fast? And let your life, not your words, be the only answer they ever get. Because that is your power. You don't flinch. You don't pause. You don't hesitate. When it's time to move, you move. And when you do, everything changes. Everything shakes. Everything that isn't real collapses. And you, unshaken, unbroken, unstoppable, you remain. You are the proof. You are the reason. You are the one who didn't blink. And still, in the silence after the collapse, there's something more, something deeper. Not just strength, not just will, something ancient, like a memory older than your name, awakening in your blood. A reminder you were never made to be kept, you were never born to obey. You were forged to break thresholds, to move through fire untouched, to walk into places others fear and claim them as your own. Because let's be honest, collapse was never the end. It was always beginning in disguise. It was the storm before clarity, the night before your crown appeared. You didn't just endure the fall, you commanded it. You didn't just watch the world unravel, you orchestrated its unraveling with the stillness of a god and the purpose of a ghost who remembers every lifetime where you kept silent and refuses to do it ever again. They think power is in the voice. You proved it lives in silence. In the still moments where the mind sharpens like a blade, where conviction hardens into steel behind your eyes, where you say nothing, and yet the air shifts. That's real power. That's the kind of presence that doesn't need permission. That's the kind of energy people feel before you even enter the room. And when people finally come to you, shaken by what you've done, still trying to piece together how you dismantled an entire life in a blink, they'll ask again, this time with awe, not confusion. How the hell did you destroy all of that so fast? You'll look at them, not with pride, not with arrogance, but with knowing, with the quiet confidence of someone who's no longer pretending, someone who doesn't need applause to breathe, someone who learned the art of self-liberation the hard way, by lighting their old life on fire and walking into the smoke without looking back. Because you know now, you don't owe anyone a version of yourself that makes them comfortable. You don't have to stay where you've outgrown just to keep peace that costs your purpose. You don't have to explain why you broke free. Freedom doesn't need a reason. It is the reason. You didn't move fast. You moved true. And truth always feels like destruction to those still trapped in illusion. That's why they didn't see it coming. That's why your silence was mistaken for hesitation. That's why your calm was read as weakness. They forgot. The most dangerous people are the ones who think quietly and move definitively. The ones who smile with scars instead of words. The ones who are no longer trying to convince anyone of anything. That's who you've become. You're not trying to fit in anymore. You're not watering yourself down. You're not playing the character they wrote for you. You ripped up the script. You erased the mask. You looked in the mirror and said, let it fall. Let it all fall. And when it did, you didn't flinch. You didn't panic. You didn't blink. Now, everything feels different. Because it is. The rules you used to live by no longer apply. You're not waiting for signs. You are the sign. You are not hoping for the right moment. You make the moment right by your presence in it. So let them keep asking. Let the world keep wondering. How the hell did you destroy all of that so fast? They'll never truly understand the pain it took to prepare. The stillness, the silence, the suffocating days you wore a version of yourself that barely breathed. They didn't see the 100 silent goodbyes you made before you ever said a word out loud. They didn't see how long you were crumbling inside before you finally let the outside match. To them, it was sudden. To you, it was necessary. To you, it was inevitable. You moved, and everything collapsed. But now something rises, not fragile, not borrowed, not stitched together from expectation, but real, sharp, unapologetic. You, the version of you that doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't shrink. The version that doesn't wear labels, the version that doesn't mistake peace for silence or loyalty for self-sacrifice. The version that doesn't confuse a cage for a home. Let this version breathe. Let this version speak. Let this version burn everything that does not bow to truth. Because your life is not a temple to what was. It is a living altar to what will be. And that future only begins when the past is reduced to ash. Which you did. With one move, one choice. No hesitation, no delay, no blinking.